So we're going to go over all the Golden Demon winners from the USA Golden Demon from just a month ago, I think. Chat is with me and you're going to see what my chat wants to say about these figures. So one thing I want to do is I don't want to critique them in the usual way I do my videos where I talk about other people's work, because none of these people ask me for my feedback and obviously they don't need it. I'm just going to give my ideas for why I like certain aspects and maybe why I don't like certain aspects, and maybe talk about why there was a bit of drama here. I'm not going to go super into detail, but just be aware that there's always drama when it comes to Golden Demons. I think partly it's because there's just 3 winners. With other systems, you have multiple people winning and everyone can be happy for each other. But the thing is, you're entering a Golden Demon, you're entering a competition that is held by a company, and they want to see certain things because they want to promote their miniatures. Don't forget that. So Golden Demon, as prestigious as it is not the pinnacle of painting, because they don't necessarily award creativity and innovation. They award technique over creativity. Golden Demon drama, from what I saw being there, mostly comes from people who aren't even competing, the people I met there, and had things in a case for supporting each other. Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that usually it's people that are watching the results or looking at the results and feel like, oh no, that's not how it should work. And then they start drama and they're super vocal about disagreeing, basically. The majority of the comments on the official Games Workshop Instagram posts about the winning entries were just complaining about the judges' decisions. Golden Demon is always a lottery. You don't know what the judges on the day are looking for. Again, it's not necessarily creativity, but it's all about, are you hitting a few check marks? Is your technique neatly executed? Are you playing well within the lore of Warhammer and Warhammer 40k? But yeah, those are 2 big major factors. If you win a Golden Demon, it doesn't mean that you're the best painter in the world. We basically have to stop thinking about it that way. It's how well are you playing within that set of rules that Games Workshop set out? And that's fine, right? You just have to be aware of it. It's not about what you want the competition to be. The competition is a certain way, and you have to be okay entering under these circumstances or not. And any talk after that, in my opinion, it's kind of useless. Which competition would you say values creativity more than Golden Demon? Any competition that is not limited to one company and that awards multiple gold medals and silver medals and bronze medals. Because there's room for a super neatly executed figure to exist next to something that just wants to play with light and colors. As a rough guess, how much painting do you think a person needs to do in their life before they could win a Golden Demon? It depends. Like Vincent Hudden won the Canadian Slayer Sword back in the day. I don't think he did much painting before his one Slayer Sword entry. He just sat down and poured, I think, 300 hours into that one entry, and he redid stuff he was not happy with and so on. So I don't think there's a rule of thumb here. You just have to get behind it and try to improve and study the techniques and all of that. Then you can get to that level rather quickly, but you have to be dedicated. I'm not the best painter in the world. No, I'm only 3rd best because, I placed 3rd in Ever Chosen, which is a worldwide competition. I'm kidding. I don't think that. Do they know GW? I don't think they even know how to spell feedback. Yeah, I think that's a thing, right? But that's not entirely true, because the usual jury, if you go there and ask them, okay, what could you give me feedback here? They're obviously not going to tell you why you didn't place. But they will give you pointers for, maybe next time change this and maybe do that. But again, it's feedback. It's a really narrow feedback within a competition. And it's not necessarily going to teach you how to be a better and a happier painter, right? If you're only happy if you win a Golden Demon within a corporation frame, I don't know if that's the ideal mindset for painting, right? You should try being happy with the way that you paint and move towards a certain style. You can be happy with why you're painting it and not be focused into a style that's doing well at Golden Demons. Because if that's not compatible with what you want to paint, then you're never going to be happy with painting. When will there be a guest entrapped on a plastic podcast? Never, because they have a policy where they only do in-person interviews or podcasts. They don't do it like over the internet. But yeah, I mean, I would totally do it. I don't know if they want to have me, but I would totally do it. But it's just, I don't know when I'm going to be in the US. I bet they'll come to you. I don't know, man. I remember from the German ones, loads of people complaining. Then the French and Spanish painters came over and won a lot of minis way back in the mid 2000s. Yeah, I was there. And the 2000s were so much drama because everyone thought Golden Demon was the greatest thing ever. Okay, the first category that I want to talk about is the open competition. And what is the open competition? It's a anything goes category, right? You can enter single figure, you can enter a huge diorama, you can enter conversions or sculpts that you did yourself. You can even enter busts. Your entry basically just has to be able to fit into the display cabinets. The 3 entries that won, this one was basically 3 tanks. You can't quite enter 3 tanks into any category. So this went into the open competition. And what I really like is the intensity of the colors. So you have the yellows and the blacks. It's always a nice contrast with the hazard strips. That always works, I think, especially in the 40K content or context. And then you have the blue panels, and the metallics are weathered nicely. Some staining effects on the turrets. And then you have the salvaged parts. So this one obviously came from something Imperial, Ultramarines, as something that I did on my crude diorama, right? He was just salvaging all kinds of plates, and this always works. Obviously for orcs, it's a nice theme. Again, if you enter Golden Demon, you kind of have to tick a couple of boxes. Just background story and telling a story obviously worked for this entry. That's one of the boxes, right? Background, be true to the background and play into the background, and then telling a story on top of that. And then the next thing is technical execution. You kind of have to do that. And then there's a couple of other things that will set your entry apart from others. The next one is staying true to that too, right? It's obviously a World Eaters Dreadnought, and the technical execution is well done. It's nothing spectacular, we have to be honest, but it's executed really neatly. So there's not a lot of contrast on the panels, but the edge highlights are executed nicely. But more than that, it tells all of the stories, right? So it has a lot of the blood going on, which is typical for World Eaters. It has the handprint here. And the stains and everything. And yeah, again, this one clearly plays into the background story of the World Eaters. And then the winner of the open competition, and the open competition is not entered into the Slayer Sword. Usually everyone that wins a category can win the Slayer Sword, but the open competition might be because you can just sculpt complete figures like this one here, and then they don't sell. They can't sell these figures, but that's tinfoil hat. Another thing is that employees can enter these categories, and they don't necessarily want to give their own employees the Slayer Sword. But yeah, this one I really liked. As far as I know, it has been sculpted by someone else, and the sculpt is really awesome, super dynamic and detailed, and the painting is really nicely executed. It's technically good too, but this clearly lives off of the contrast of the really desaturated face, really cold face, and a lot of the OSL that comes from the sword. So this is more of a creative piece, right, than a technical piece. But it plays really well into the background. It tells the story of Sanguinius and is really well executed and completely scratch built, and just in that open competition setting, that's some really good stuff. I'm surprised on the weathering of silver and bronze for open. Usually expect them to like clean models. Yeah, again, it all depends what else is there and whether or not you do. If you're just dumping stuff on your minis so that they're dirty and all of that, it's not going to help, right? You have to weather it. You also have to execute the weathering in a nice way and technically really well executed. Otherwise, you're not going to win. And maybe again, if it's, a muddy scene where an Imperial guard is just crawling out of the mud and, I don't know, gets stabbed by a Chaos Space Marine, that might work too, right? You just kind of have to tell a story. And then again, it depends on what else is there. Okay, the next category is Young Bloods. Yeah, Young Bloods means you can only enter if you're, I think, 14 or less, or under 14 even. 1, 2. Wait, there's only 2. Did they not give a bronze? Still goes to... Okay, there's no bronze showing here. But yeah, it's I'm always happy that there's a lot of people coming, behind the established painters now. And I think the winner is executed really nicely for the age. Yeah, could have definitely won a lot of online competitions too. Okay, next category is small scale, and this is for both epic stuff and a lot of the Titanicus Titans, obviously. And I think what won here was clearly a neat execution. So you have a lot of the neat gradients this time again, and neat edge highlighting. And it's kind of hard to tell because don't forget we're only seeing one picture here. We can't pick it up and look at it from different angles. But from what I can see, I think that definitely gave this one the edge, judging from the picture. Sam's entry does look neatly executed too. Again, it's kind of hard to say or judge from pictures. I definitely love the theme, right? All of the weathering going on here and the streaking and all of that. It's kind of hard to say why placed only silver compared to the gold entry, but it could be that maybe some of the green was a bit stained. One thing that this teaches us is that sometimes for Golden Demon, it's better to enter something small and to execute that to the point instead of entering something bigger and going a bit more crazy on that. Try thinking about whether or not you can have a smaller entry and execute that more neatly, and maybe you have more time to invest into less area, and maybe that could be a recipe for winning Golden Demons. Okay, the dual category is always a category that I like. I think I have won like 2 first places in that category, and I think you can play a lot with good against bad and light against dark and so on. And the bronze entry, I've seen other pictures. It might be that this picture is not showing the true potential, but obviously there's like super smooth gradients. Another thing that you have to pay attention to in this category is that there's interaction between the two models. So you cannot just place figure A on this side and figure B on this side, and then they're pointing at each other or stuff like that. It's always good to have interaction. At least that's what the judges are looking for. And here we have the spear kind of interacting with the other figure. Obviously, he mounted that flying figure on the spear. Yeah, it almost makes it look like he just dodged the stab. Yeah, the base obviously neatly executed. All of the grass looks good, and the stone here gives a bit of a direction and a lot of line work with the 2 spears. Again, kind of sad we don't see more angles. I kind of wish they did not just take one shot. I mean, it kind of makes sense for single figures, but whenever you have dioramas or 2 figures interacting in a dual category, you just kind of need that other angle so you can see what they saw and maybe understand a bit better why they placed it in 3rd place or 2nd place and so on. I think Ben should have won that category and Andy should have won the silver. It's tough to say because I only have the pictures. When I saw this entry and I saw different angles too, I was blown away by the composition, right? So everything that went into this piece is really awesome. He probably painted it in a day, again, like it's Ben. But like I said earlier, the way that the diorama is composed, where it's a really narrow space, you don't have much filler. For example, here on the side, there's not a lot of stuff going on. The story is told by just the window in the back and a bit of rubble here, and then the interaction of the figures. I'm not super familiar with this model, but I think there's a lot of conversion going on. That's really nice, ticks a box of, you're able to manipulate the figures in a way that they still appear like Games Workshop figures, and the interaction is nice. You're telling a story in a real narrow space. What I cannot comment on is the technical stuff. So I don't know the close-ups. It could be that close-up there were a few technical issues, as Games Workshop calls it, and maybe this one was just a tiny bit more neatly executed. It's hard to say. But the way that I know Ben's painting style is that he does a lot of loaded brush, blending white into other colors. And that can look grainy, even though his technique is really refined. Maybe if Steven here worked a bit more technical with transitions being maybe a bit more neatly, then yeah, I can see why maybe they placed this over the other entry. The scene really looks nice, right? Everything else kind of becomes opinion at some point because we can't clearly see every little detail. Maybe that's why this one placed lower than the other one. Hard to say. I don't know. We don't know. But I mean, all three, in my opinion, are really great as far as storytelling goes, composition goes. They all have an angle. Ironically, they all have the same angle, at least from the perspective that Games Workshop decided to take the picture. They look really similar, especially those two. Yeah, obviously Steven placed a lot more, or I would assume placed a lot more emphasis on smooth gradients. He really tried to push that. Most of the dual entries lack dynamics. I'm not 100% sure about that. Do they lack dynamics? I mean, it's not like they're static figures. There's not a lot of conversion going on. I think these two are out of the box, but just really smart placement. The models itself are kind of dynamic. So the rider here is dynamic. This one is flying. This one's taking a leap forward. And yeah, they're positioned against each other so that the interaction of the swing kind of works. I wish I do the model viewer for these. Yeah, they can't really do that. Yeah, usually they don't have a lot of time to take these pictures, but it would totally, I'm with you. It would make a lot more sense to do these on a turntable. But Games Workshop always had this weird relationship with their golden demons, where it's like, yeah, we have a golden demon, you know, and we have these great models, and there's awesome painters entering these great models. But yeah, I mean, here's a picture in 600 by 600 pixels, right? Have fun. One angle, who cares? So that has always been kind of weird. I prefer storytelling over technique. Yeah, so welcome to Golden Demons. Again, it's always a lottery, right? And depends on what the judges are weighing heavier than another aspect. But I'm not a judge, so my opinion is not that important. But no, it's totally fine to have an opinion, and if you can voice your opinion, right, and back your opinion up, then that's totally fine. In the end, Golden Demon is Golden Demon. You're going there, you're agreeing to what's going on there, and the swords thing. Now we're getting into, now we have the sword fight is coming out. The sword swing looks kind of unnatural. I mean, does it? Like which one? This one? It's a dude in power armor. He has to do like, you know, the chest piece is like this. And he's swinging like this. That's the fighting style in power armor. I don't know, but I'm not a sword fighter. Steven's stone textures on the base were also incredibly well done. Yeah, it's hard to say, right? There's no picture of that at all, but I totally believe it. So you can kind of see it back here. Some of the stone looked like it was quarried and not painted. Maybe dynamic was the wrong wording. I just noticed in duel, a lot of the time it's just 2 minutes standing opposite to each other. Yeah, exactly. That's what I said earlier, right? I really like how there's a diagonal line from the top of the scenery to the back of the demon. I mean, this, right? Yeah. So it depends, right? We don't quite know. So that's how Games Workshop interpreted it. We don't know if that was Ben's intention, but could have very well be. It's just, to me, it feels kind of hit and miss the way they place these entries when they take the final pictures. So you never know. Okay, the next category is diorama, and the bronze entry. Again, I said I don't want to critique too much, but I think this one suffered from having too much going on. I'm a fan of, I said it already, about narrowing down your storytelling. So try to tell your story with as little elements as possible. I get that sometimes you just want to use all figures to tell your story, but what that does is it gives opportunity for the judges to look at it and find like one figure among the, I don't know, 25 or 30 that has a bit of an error, right? And now you're screwed. Now you're not going to place because someone else maybe only put 4 figures into that diorama and they executed them to perfection. So you have to weigh being able to finish everything to perfection against the storytelling you want to do. And in my opinion, you can tell this story with way less people and also way less background. And another thing that having way less background would help probably is You have a very symmetrical piece here. And we don't necessarily like that on a subconscious level. So the thing is, these dioramas do really well because they have they're skewed, right? So they have an angle, and this one especially is a really good example. There could be a lot more going on here in the back, but he didn't need it. He just needed that one panel as a background to tell the story, while this one has a whole church there. And again, I mainly say that because it offers a lot of possibilities for quote-unquote error, which is punished by Games Workshop. So the way I would have told that was maybe the demons could have swirled a bit more like this. So maybe you'd place like 2, 3, 4, and a 5th one jumping like up here, trying to grab onto her, and she's kind of just trying to float away. Yeah, and then cut right here. Okay, cut this away, and then have a bit of an asymmetry in there. And that way you're guiding the USI towards the centerpiece. And then you have the defenders. Maybe have 1 Space Marine and 2 or 3 of the sororitas just standing in the back trying to defend, maybe being wounded, maybe being downed. Just kind of more like a last stand, more dramatic storytelling. It would have meant you have way less work to do, both on the background and the figures, and your story is still the same. Okay, so from what I can say here, the painting is not necessarily... So, I mean, this is a really fun scene. I wouldn't say that the painting is necessarily better than this. Well, it's hard to tell. It doesn't blow me away, right? The painting doesn't blow me away. It's neat, but it's not necessarily what I would expect from Golden Demon. So I don't know why they valued this one more over this one, but maybe it was that, you know, small thing that we mentioned earlier where maybe this one was more consistent than this one. I don't know, it's hard to tell. One thing I'm pretty sure, because I saw a lot of pictures, is that these figures, they were executed super nicely. Again, the angle, I'm at a loss. I don't know what the story is telling, but that's not the author's fault. It's more like, okay, here's one picture from a random angle. Have fun. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that the miniatures were super neatly executed, and the story was nice too. I just can't tell from this picture. So I would have expected, you know, just do a montage of, I don't know, just zoom in on those two and then take a picture from the other side and also give us a view, and then maybe have a second picture with the total view. I don't know. But yeah, I can't say much because of how Games Workshop took a picture here. Big group of static figures cannot capture the chaotic movement of a fight. I remember Andy's diorama entry clearly showing Games Workshop is taking the photo from a wrong angle. Exactly. Andy Ward said his preferred viewing angle is from behind the vampire hunters. Yeah, absolutely. It is indeed really sticks in the snow. From this angle, it is, yeah. Yeah, they don't know what to do with stuff like this. It's a bit of it's a pity. I get what Andy was going for here. There's lots of cool scenes with that diorama, but as an entire composition, I'm not a fan. It's well painted. I mean, I can see where you guys are coming from, but again, it's hard for me to judge from that picture, and I also only saw close-ups of the figures. I haven't had it in hand, but I see where you guys are coming from. Yeah, so I have the same problem with this one. So that's the Middle Earth category. I'm not 100% sure if that is the preferred viewing angle of the artist. So it's hard to say. Also, I have no idea about the current Middle Earth Lord of the Rings models, and whether or not this is a large conversion, or if that model exists the way it is. But yeah, I mean, Matt knows how to do bases. They're really awesome stuff here. I can't speak much to the painting. It's kind of hard to tell. So here's an example of what I mean. So they didn't need to do the whole house to tell that story. So that's a good example of an asymmetric scenery that guides your eye. So we kind of want to look at that a lot more than if it were a whole house and it was just symmetric. And obviously the painting is nice, really well executed. Yeah, this one I liked a lot. So with the extra added scenes, and obviously the execution is really nice. Fits Games Workshop style really nicely. The contrast of, you know, cooler the cooler greens versus the purples that are slightly, I mean, you know, it's still a cold color, but it has a lot of red in it. I really like that. It's nice, almost complementary contrast. But yeah, I wish I could have seen that in reality. It looks really well executed. See, I don't know, they have a new range, right? So the Games Workshop did bring out a new range for Middle Earth. So they're redoing some of their models. I don't know what's going on there. I have not followed this a lot. Okay, next category, we have Warhammer Age of Sigmar large model. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So like the Nurglings kind of carrying the big dude, like that mass of Nurglings. Seems like it should be a couple of smaller dioramas or condensed to a smaller footprint. Yeah, it's a good point. It kind of goes with what I was saying, right? So do the trees. Yeah, I really like how everything blends together. So this is kind of the way that I imagine Nurgle, because, you know, it's rotting and everything's becoming kind of sameish. So I really like that. I'm not a fan of the banner, using large banners on Golden Demon entries. The idea behind it obviously is that you can show that you can paint. It's also, there's a trend where you're doing backgrounds for your entries, and it's a really nice tool to create ambience and surroundings. And I don't know, I don't think it should be done on every single model, right? Obviously that's not talking to this one in particular, but I almost feel like if you cut down the sides here and have it be a bit more to the side, again, asymmetry, right? So the viewing angle would have become a bit more like this. There would be less of an empty space here. That could have maybe helped. I almost feel like this takes me out of the whole composition in the clear, large areas here. Again, trying to show that you can paint beyond just on the miniature always was considered something good to do on a Golden Demon. I'm not 100% sure if that's still the case. But again, the judges here were different than the usual UK judges, or the judges that judge most of the other Golden Demons. So it's hard to tell. But yeah, I really like that. Again, for the composition, it's kind of hard to say about the technical execution. In the larger scheme of light placement and all of that, I really like it. I think the piece would have been stronger if it was exactly as is, but without the banner. Yeah, that's a tough question. It's kind of hard to say, right? I mean, the model has a lot of stuff going on. I think he even used like grass tufts on the back, so I really like that. It could have been. Would it have placed higher? I'm not 100% sure. I'll be super honest and I'll say I'm not super convinced that this is better painted than this. Again, I only have the pictures and I don't want to feed into that whole drama thing. So what I'm saying is just purely based off of the pictures. I'm not going to fall into the trap of making absolute statements like other people are trying to do, just looking at the pictures. From the pictures and as a subjective opinion, I'm not 100% sure if this one is better painted than the others. I still like it. It's interesting gradient from the blue towards the pink. But looking at the horns, for example, I feel like there's a bit of a lack of detail. And as soon as you're kind of leaving the territory of fur, there's maybe some inconsistencies. I'm not sure. I can't say how much the judges value. The only thing that I can say personally, I feel like the way the banner is constructed, it takes me out of the scale a bit. So I feel like I'm looking at a model because of the way that the banner falls and feels like it's betraying the scale. To me, it's communicating that this is a model because it looks like a paper sheet. But I don't know if the Golden Demon judges go to that length of understanding painting and scale and what you should be representing, quote unquote, should be, right? How can you not fall into that trap? Or how could you do that different? Maybe make it look a bit more, just study drapes and curtains. Maybe study curtains and how they fall and how large volumes of fabric behave in that scale. The thing I like about this one is that it's the base, the vegetation on the base kind of takes you out of, realism. It's a bit more fantastic. So I really like that. Sim said one of the notes he got was that the Nurglings weren't highlighted to the same level as the Great Unclean One. Yeah, but does that even make sense? I mean, they're in the shadow, they're below here. Honestly, if they were highlighted more, I think I would have liked the piece less. Because, I mean, that's supposed to be a mass of Nurglings carrying the other dude. Yeah, I completely disagree with that statement. Without being able to zoom in. Personally, I would have placed it higher than this one, for example. About these, I'm not sure. But again, that's just my opinion. So with silver, the first thing that jumps out at you is the really intense colors. So that I really like. I think those are neatly executed, but again, I would have to see them in person. He disagreed with their logic, but it was what they told him. Yeah. Again, I mean, how can you even anticipate that that would be a point of criticism in a competition like that, right? You can't. Also, would you bend out of shape if you knew, or would you do what makes sense for you? So always stay true to yourself and not anticipating anything is my advice for Golden Demons. One question with the Demon miniature entries that work both for 40k and AOS, how is it decided? You can enter them in whatever category you want. So wait until the cabinets are filled, right? And in the last 5 minutes, decide whether or not you're entering 40k or fantasy. One more thing you could do is have a little base detail. I don't know, make it science fiction or make it fantasy. It's up to you. In that sense, I would prefer like a master painted tapestry, which is rotten and decaying. Yeah, so that's what I would have gone for. And that's a bit towards my criticism of, the icons being really well painted, and then it's just a flat piece with some details like flies and all of that. But I mean, obviously, I know you can't spend like 400 hours on an entry, but maybe have everything be smaller and have an interesting pattern here in the back. To complement the rest of the freehand, which is executed nicely, and then not have the flatter background be distracting, and then just have it decay and maybe add some green stuff or some putty detail where it's protruding out, the ripping and so on. Sam is going to hate me because I said I wouldn't criticize the entries, but now we criticized a lot, right? But I think it's still interesting to talk about these things, right? It doesn't mean that the entry is bad. It's just minor things that you can tweak that just work better on a psychological level while looking at minis. I think there's a lot of stuff to learn here still. The unit entries or the unit categories have a bit of a reputation of being the easier categories, mainly because you will have to paint, I think it's 4 as a minimum, 4 models, as opposed to the single figure models, and therefore less people are entering these because it's more work investment. I feel like that's sometimes true for some events and sometimes it's not true at all. So here, I think we still have 3 really strong entries. This one here plays a lot more with monochrome colors, which I really like. Again, not being able to hold them in hand, I feel like there's a few inconsistencies with the technical execution, which obviously would drag it down in a Golden Demon judging. But I really like the way that light and colors interact on these figures. So I liked these a lot. Yeah, these again, those are also really well executed. Kind of scanning through if I see anything that bugs me, but there's really nothing. The only thing that maybe throws me off is that this one kind of doesn't have a focal point, but that could very well be intended, right? To just have the sword and the shield stand out. But I would have maybe done something different with the fur, but again, it's super nitpicky and who cares? It's a bit more of a Games Workshop style, except maybe for the weapons, where he tried to go for a bit more of an interesting reflection pattern than what Games Workshop usually has. But the edge highlights here and all of that, it's definitely trying to be more of a Golden Demon style. Yeah, I like those a lot. In my opinion, they have, these 4 have over the other 2. That one is that whenever you pick models that are really similar, it's kind of tough to make them stand out, right? It becomes more like a wall of the same thing. Again, on an individual level, it doesn't take these models down, but you're always better off, in my opinion, entering Golden Demons with really different squads. So where each individual model is a bit different, it gives a lot more opportunity. You know, here we have wing textures and brighter colors. Then we have the deep red here from the Vampire Lord, and then a lot of hair going on here and different textures, different ways to work with armor. And they tend to like it a bit better if you can go creative. So ever since they dropped the whole regiment thing, where they had to be game legal to be entered, I feel like you should always go crazy with what models you're taking and are putting into your quote-unquote unit. I think that's clearly the case here. Very heavy metal-esque style, but I would say heavy metal plus definitely. Highlights are in the right place, right? So if we look at the hair, for example, everything really well readable. Yeah, I think that's what probably gave it the edge. Rumor is this unit was in contention for the sword. I can see that, honestly. Again, it's kind of tough to say from the pictures, but I wouldn't doubt it from what I can see. I was going to say, I feel like those are my second favorite entry in the competition. Okay, so Warhammer Age of Sigmar single figure. Usually these are the quote-unquote hardest categories, again, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, right? It's just quote-unquote one model. You can focus on pushing that single model to the limits. And also those are the most prestigious categories. So a lot of people try to win those for the prestige. Here, I like the color composition. I feel like they try to do a lot of heavy metal-esque style and then push it a bit further, where, you know, you have these individual highlights within the shapes, not only the outlines. And I like the color composition. Yeah, fits really well towards the Games Workshop style. Oh, it's Robbie McLeod, right? It's the person that won gold here. Yeah. Here I feel like Games Workshop said, why not reward a bit of creativity, right? It's definitely not Games Workshop style. I'm not 100% sure if it were the usual judges, if this would have placed. But yeah, that's obviously a really unique style and really creative style. Yeah, really interesting piece. Out of the box, not following a lot of conventions. But yeah, being really interesting. I think my favorite part is the shield here with the swirly things. That's the appropriate term, I believe. And then obviously we have the winner, the gold winner. So this one reminds me a lot of David Soper's stuff, especially with the high contrasts, like going almost to black on the blues and almost to white, or, you know, I would say maybe white here, and then the additional reflections painted. And in general, how there's still a lot of edge highlighting going on. So again, it fits a lot with what Games Workshop is looking for. And then the individual pixels placed down neatly. So trying to be very particular about where the highlights go and where, you know, the shadows go, pushing cleanliness to the point, even though it's painted a lot with dots, a lot of stippling going on here. But yeah, pushing the contrast again here for the chest muscle, we can see that the shadows are really pushed really dark, and then we have the bright spots almost to white. Yeah, really neat execution. Yeah, so stuff like this is always going to be a contender for the sword. He took a small model and he tried to focus on that small model and tried to make the most out of what is in that small model. Again, you don't always have to use a really impressive model just to catch the judge's attention. You can impress the judges with this neat execution too on a small model. I don't know how I feel about the Nurgle fella. He's too clean, right? He's tiny bit too clean to be Nurgle, but I like that style, honestly. So my ever-chosen entry was a bit more like this. Could have been a reason why it didn't place higher than third place. Warhammer 40k large model. I really like this model, but I feel like I kind of know why it didn't place higher. So it's kind of difficult to find a resting place on this. So I would have just gone crazy with the skin color and made it super bright, and then maybe placed maybe some fire-esque, it's just something brighter in like two spots, like here and maybe here. But obviously this is a really well executed miniature. I really like it. Yeah, I mean, tough to say, right? So here, maybe this one has a bit more focus through the brighter areas of the armor. I wouldn't say this is necessarily that much better painted than the third place. But yeah, I like that one with the brighter effects here and the slime effects. In general, the color composition to me is really appealing, and I always have liked these purple pink spots on Nurgle. Yeah, so again, comparing those two, the only thing I can maybe think about why they liked it better is that there's a more color variety going on here, while not looking like a clown, even though he used really intense colors, still fitting really nicely. So this, I was kind of confused by this one. I really like the painting that is going on, so you don't have the classic non-metallic pattern. What I really liked is that there's the brightest areas up here, and then this area is less bright, and then the one facing down is dark. I really need to steal that. I need to make a screenshot of that. I have to copy that. And I get what he was trying to do with the background. I just don't see how that is a legal entry. So what's throwing me off completely is this here, the line here. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know how that was a legal entry, honestly. You're kind of supposed to not bring these large backgrounds. You're kind of supposed to stick to a base that is like the gaming base. You can be slightly above, right, or below, but this is basically a diorama to me. Again, super well executed. I loved it. I just don't know how it placed in that category. But yeah, I like everything about it. I even like the background. Again, with the subtle edge highlights, just the light coming out of this and creating some really nice atmosphere. I love the piece itself. Brits have different rules. No, they have different judges. The rules are the same. If you go back and read up on the rules, it's the same rules. How would it be illegal because it wasn't on a game-able base? No. You don't have to put them on a base, on a gaming base, but the base you're using to create your basing material needs to be just the same size or roughly the same size, okay? I heard a contestant freaked out because someone else won. Welcome to Golden Demon. Happens every time. But yeah, really great composition and all that. It's almost a diorama, exactly. They had Primarch Vulcan, Chapter Master Vulcan, and that doesn't fit the lore, so can't win. Oh, yeah. She used a different model. Yeah. So they were really picky with background this time, right? So that's true. I think they changed the general base requirements. Yeah, appropriately sized. Yeah, but this is not appropriately sized. This is a diorama. So this is appropriately sized. I mean, it's even on a gaming base, right? So is this on a gaming base? I'm not sure. So it's not on a gaming base. It's on a plinth, but it's appropriately sized. Yeah, even if it was like 2 centimeters wider, it would be appropriately sized, but this is not appropriately sized. Again, I don't want to riff on it too much. It's a minor thing. I mean, again, would it have won without the background? Probably, but the background adds a lot of interest, right? A lot of focus. But legality, question mark. Okay, Warhammer 40k vehicle. Yeah, so this one, I'm a sucker for scratches and dents. Feel like, again, without being able to see it up close, but I feel like that one was really nicely executed. And then yellow is always difficult to pull off. It has nice contrasts with the black against the yellow. Again, nice execution, clean execution. Let's see why it only placed third. So what put this one over this one? Tricky to say. I don't like the face. I wonder if it's converted. It feels super flat to me. I don't know why. The rest looks awesome. The non-metallic, there's a lot of dynamics going on here. Then again, the black is kind of flat. Maybe they ran out of time. So I'd say the non-metallic parts and also the red parts are really top-notch. I think maybe just the black parts are a bit lackluster. The photo is also a bit small. I mean, it's probably because they wanted to get the spear on it too. But yeah, again, except for the face, I really like that. So this one, there was one guy riffing on this one hard, saying what's going on, is Golden Demon a newbie competition? But honestly, again, it's Games Workshop competition, and this one just screams Nurgle's rot. It's kind of the same thing that we said with Sam's entry, where maybe the banner was a tiny bit too clean. So If the banner looked a bit more like this, so like this, where, yeah, a lot of rot going on in the back and just looking super old. But yeah, again, you have to tick a couple of boxes, and this one just ticks the Nurgle background a lot. So it's not always just perfect technical execution. And then also, I wouldn't even say that this is not technically well executed. It's still really great with all the weathering and the more subtle edge highlights, the more subtle metallic edge highlights. It's definitely a distinct style, but again, I wouldn't call this bad by any means. I still like it. It's really appealing to me, even though it might not be the mainstream, yeah, what we consider good these days. Alexis entry gives me Richard Gray vibes. Ah, yeah, a little bit. Color usage wise. I think the base on the silver is better than the bronze. I mean, it's rubble, right? So maybe there's a bit more light than shadows going on. In general, this might have more light situation going for it. But I don't know if Games Workshop takes that into consideration. So this is more of a global light, and this one almost feels like directional light. Yeah, I can see that. This guy spent so much typhus corrosion technical, they had to give him the goal. That has been an interesting rumor in the past, right? Just make sure that you spend as much money on your entry, use Forge World bits for your bases, like use half a Primark to put on your base, and spend a lot on the model itself. And then they are going to award it so that they make a lot more money. I don't think that's true at all. But yeah, if you just spend a lot on the model itself and the base, and then added a lot of product on top, then you're good. It's easy to cover up mistakes with weathering. It's difficult to let detail show through weathering in a believable way. Yeah, I totally get what you mean. But I feel like here, this is the theme of the whole model, and he just wanted to lean into that. And again, don't forget, we're not only talking about technical execution, we also have to take into account the background and what feels like 40K, right, in this case. And this really feels like grimdark, so. Okay, I'm saying this because I've read that Matthew said that about his entry. He said he felt like if it was a UK Golden Demon, for example, where there's usually generally more entries, he would have probably not placed. I think, I don't know why, I think he said he maybe didn't have enough time to finish everything to a bit of a higher standard. But if you take an entry that is really neatly executed, maybe enter a squad category, there's always the chance to place in a Golden Demon, right? So if your execution is really neatly, and again, the edge highlights are placed neatly, maybe it's not as dramatically lit, so especially the one in the front, again, looking at a picture, so I can't tell how it looks in reality. But it's really subtle and minimal highlighting, cleanly executed. So yeah, if you do that, sometimes you slip through and you place. And again, they look super neat. I think there's a lot of people that would be happy if they could paint to that standard. So nice to hear Matthew being realistic. Good mindset. Yeah, you kind of have to know. I mean, just be honest to yourself, right? It doesn't make sense any other way. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. Even if you're like top pinnacle painter, you should still be humble and honest. So Niklas, I've seen a lot of his stuff on Instagram, and I really like his painting style. He has a way to create contrast. So if you look at the bolter, he goes from really dark to bright. Obviously the red, there's just no way to go any brighter on red without it looking pink and all that. So, but still, there's a lot of contrast in this, and he has a lot of understanding of how colors work and how contrast and light interaction works. Yeah, I like those a lot. So it's the subtle placement of highlights, right? They're all in a place that makes sense and it's striking while keeping the contrast. I only realized I saw a lot of his stuff on Instagram when I saw that this was winning. There's a lot of subtlety going on. Also, it doesn't quite show here, but maybe the shoulder guards, they have these subtle color changes. It's also in the black. There's a lot of the base color still reflecting there. Yeah, really like those. So I haven't seen any pictures here, but the gold looks super impressive to me. So Andy clearly knows how to place lights and play with lights and shadows. Again, the way I said that Nicholas understands this, I feel like Andy usually understands this even more. That's always a plus with a Golden Demon, to have a really nice amount of contrast. Okay, so then this one, and I'm super happy about this one because Alex and I have been working on this one. So again, I'm not going to take any credit for where I don't deserve any credit, because obviously his technique is really great and we've not been working on a technique. I'm hoping he watched my videos and he learned a lot from that, but he probably also learned a lot from other painters, because I don't necessarily do these extreme highlights and extreme metal, non-metallic metal highlights and then secondary lights and all of that. But we've been working on the composition and yeah, general, just what is doing well on a Golden Demon and what isn't. And I'm really happy for him that he placed, as far as I know, he's not painting that long. So for everyone that has been asking how much time do you have to invest and how long do you have to paint until you can consider going to the Demon, yeah, just always go, just dedicate yourself to a piece and go and have fun. And then, you know, if you invested enough work and a lot of sweat and tears and all of that, because you can't spell paint without pain, you can do it. You can win a Golden Demon with some dedication. So yeah, I really like the light and how it interacts with the base, and yeah, this almost creates an illustration feeling, or I have a feeling like I'm looking at an illustration. And then the placement of light is really nice. Again, really happy about this one. Alex has gathered a dream team of coaches and it has paid dividends. Yeah, I know. He has been taking lessons from other people too. I know. The composition is amazing with the one Megadendrite pointing right forward. It looks like a movie poster. Exactly. So this one is, again, I'm not sure about the appropriately sized base, but it is what it is. Doesn't really detract from this being a really awesome piece. And again, if you want to enter a Golden Demon, try to do something like this. Do a Space Marine, execute it neatly. So it's maybe even better here. Yeah, so have subtle color changes, subtle gradients. Try to have your gradients really nicely and smoothly. Again, we have the really dark contrast, or the really dark shadows contrasted against rather bright highlights. Yeah, this is really a style that does really well on Golden Demons. So again, I think this is Robin McLeod. So if we look at this style and we're comparing it to the Slayer Sword winner, that is a different person, right? But it's really similar. If you want to do well at a Golden Demon, this is, in my opinion, honestly something to aim for. And we can see it again in these single figure minis. Yeah, good contrast. Nice color variation. So for example, in the face, you have all of these reds, so intense colors, subtle color changes. In my opinion, that's the way to go. Cleanest decapitated head in history. Yeah, but that's what you need to do for a Golden Demon. Okay, that concludes our stroll through the Golden Demon winners from this year's Adepticon. Obviously, the Slayer Sword winner was Gavin Garza. Congratulations again. Thoughts on the contrast between realistic looking bases and clean looking, clear to read figures. Yeah, so this has been a theme. So I don't think they care much about bases. They always say, yeah, we're looking at the figures mostly. But this one, for example, and then you have everything Andy Wardle did right here. So really contrasting style and then rather subtle, realistic bases. I mean, it works. I think it just puts a lot more emphasis on the figures. Yeah, I would not consider either or bad, right? So it's totally up to what you want to create. So I don't think there's a right or wrong here. The tree barks as slate rocks bases are starting to get old. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, if it works, I'm not good at basing myself. When you find something that works for you, you're kind of wanting to embrace it. I'm not judging anyone for that. The convention center Adepticon was held at had planters with trees that were filled with slate. They were significantly less full by the end of the weekend. Damn. My favorite, what's my favorite? I mean, I'm a sucker for real clean paint jobs. So I like this one. I might be biased, but I also like this one a lot. Yeah, I really like these. My favorite. Also, again, this one was really cool. It's maybe a subtle thing, but you know, this thing here blew me away. It almost looks like an illustration. These again were within the frame of Golden Demon, and what does well at Golden Demon was really good. I really like these for the color placement and light interactions and all of that. Favorite, I'm not sure I can tell. Yeah, this one was super awesome because of everything. Yeah, this one I really like the eagle. It almost feels like, yeah, this guy's looking at me and he's judging me. I'll place this one as my favorite if I had to be pressed. Hey Alex.